Tack så mycket för inbjudan och tack till för dina ord också, för ditt stöd för vårt samarbete som har varit utmärkt i hela denna period som jag har fått delta i. I would like to continue my address in English, and a lot of what Ketil already mentioned here is elements that I can only say yes to. We are thinking very much alike in Norway and in Finland on so many issues, and there are also the vision of how transport and communication will develop in the future is something that we very much share in common. Finland sees transport to be disrupted by basically 4 major trends. First, we see technology to be one issue that in so many ways both disrupts but also enables a major change in the transport system. We will see that technology will create the possibility for fully automated transport systems. All transport modes are changing. Ketil mentioned here the automation which will take place in maritime and in shipping. In Finland, we have engaged in a large testing environment and a test bed outside of Turku, where we have 80 companies together with authorities testing if we can manage and agree upon autonomous shipping by the year 2025. In the air, we are seeing drones, we will see goods, services, and in some time also people being moved from one place to another with unmanned aircrafts, and also needing completely different infrastructure, and also challenging the way that we are looking at air traffic management at the time being. On roads, we will have autonomous grocery stores, we will have different kinds of services on robots that will especially maintain services in remote areas in a way that we are not able fully to imagine today. Rails in all of this are the question mark. How will they develop? Are we talking about hyperloops in the future? Or are we still talking about rails with a perspective of the next 50 years? At the same time, the second major trend that we are looking for is digitalization, which enables transport to become from a very authority-driven sector to become a user-centered service environment. All transport modes will be interconnected, data operated, and mobile-driven. There we have the enormous possibility to create markets in service, in transport, which are beyond our beliefs. And we will also see common ticketing systems, payment arrangements, and seamless travel chains from door to door all over, hopefully the Nordic areas, but at least we will start with the Finnish areas. Technology and digitalization are changing transport in a way which is unprecedented for the history of how we are moving from one place to another. These are developments that are coming whether we like or not. They are also changes that are not ideology depending or depending on the kind of values that we are developing. But climate change, again, is very much a choice that we make as society, and also a choice that we make based on how we look at our values and our future. Finland is committed to reduce the emissions from the transport network with 50% by 2030. And this will have consequences on how we move from one place to another, the kind of choices that we do make, and the kind of infrastructure that we are embracing. Fourthly, we are looking at the trends of urbanization, but at the same time, the trend of smart countryside. With those actually feeding on technology, digitalization, and our values for climate change, we will see strong developments on the one side in how cities become more intelligent and smart, but at the same time, we will also see completely new developments in remote areas that we haven't had the chance to use before. We will see new accessibility, new ways of connectivity, and also new ways of understanding our ways that we have around our resources and our areas. Finland is for the time being chairing the Arctic Council. In the Arctic Council we have set 4 priorities. Firstly, connectivity, where we say that we would like to see that in the Arctic areas there is a chance for connectivity in a sense that we haven't had it before. Not only based on satellite, but also to make sure that we can have remote mobile areas. Secondly, we think that the cooperation in meteorology is something that hasn't been used to its full extent in the Arctic areas. We also see that there are learnings, especially for the maritime sector, that can be of benefit for especially the population in the Arctic areas, but also for research and understanding in those areas, developing our know-how. Our third priority is environment and the protection of it. And the one thing that I have learned, especially in discussing the Arctic Rail, has been that the interests of our environment protection and the interests of climate change are not always the same. And there we need to think about, again, the kind of choices and selections that we make. Fourthly, we want to introduce new ways of education in Arctic areas. Remotely systems, but also based on digitalization, learnings and understandings. When we look at the Barents region, we see an enormous potential. In the Barents area, we have a lot of resources that are still unexplored. The European Union uses 20% of the world's mineral resources. It produces, within the areas of the European Union, only 3%. Arctic Europe has 17% of the world's mineral deposits. Over 25% of global oil and gas resources are in the Arctic and in the European high north. The forest area of the Arctic Europe equals to 70% of the European forest areas. Norway produces 50% of the fish consumed in all of the EU. All of this needs to be explored, used, and also moved from one place to another. Finland has made a position that we do want to see ourselves as a hub in transport of people, goods, and data. We think that we can be, in the Arctic areas, a connecting point between Asia and Europe. The Helsinki-Vantaa airport has already shown how importantly we can connect through the airways Asia and Europe, and how the Arctic areas can benefit from that part. We are also seeing that we would like to connect the Arctic areas of Europe with the Central European areas by rail. So we have been looking at the Arctic Rail coming from the northern parts of Norway, working its way through Finland, reaching Helsinki, continuing over a tunnel to Estonia, to Tallinn, continuing on the Rail Baltica to Berlin. We will see both in our tourism fields, people moving or taking a train from Berlin and arriving in the northern parts of Norway. We will hopefully see goods traveling in both directions. This is a vision that we are strongly committed to and that we do want to explore. At the same time, we like to keep in mind how much will change in the next 10, 20, 30 years in transport. And we want to make sure that that vision is holistic, sustainable, and also valid for the next generations. We also need to see that all sectors of our private companies will have data-related business models. We will also see that the connection of fast data between Asia and Europe is something that will move over this area. So Finland has been actively engaging and in creating a project which we call the Northeast Passage Data Cable Project, which connects China, Japan, Russia, Norway, Finland to Germany in fast data connections. All of this is infrastructure that is enabling. And all of this has to be a part of European Arctic thinking. We do expect and we do hope that Europe sees its Arctic parts as relevant. We also think that the Arctic areas should be part of the European core network and also be connected in a sense where we say that Europe must consist of all of its parts, including Arctic areas. So this is a part where we need to come together and also work together in order to create the possibilities for accessibility and connectivity between Europe and its Arctic areas. We also do need to see that logistics need to become more intelligent. The Finnish government is preparing a resolution on the development of freight and logistics in a sense where we would like to see how much can we do with data, how can we make sure that all capacity is used, how do we ensure that we have a flow of information, how do we optimize the use of capacity, and how do we create decentralized networks from machine-to-machine communication, vehicle-to-vehicle communication, and ensure that we can benefit from automation, not on a level of the individuals or individual companies, but on a level of society. And this is one of our most biggest challenge, to make sure that all the developments that technology and digitalization will bring will actually benefit all of us. So what will be our vision for the future? I think people will and goods will move more than ever in the next 10, 20, 30 years. I think also that much of this will be based on intelligent solutions, and much of this will be based on fully automated transport and holistic systems. The question that we will be facing as governments is what will be the role of infrastructure, how do we finance it, and what kind of services will infrastructure provide. It will not only be the physical connectivity, infrastructure will be a platform for data and create new business models for the private sector alongside new services for the public in the public community. But it will not only be about technology. It will also be about how we use, when I see my friend Michael Kramer, it will be about how we use cycling, how we use walking, how we connect all the different modes of how we move into one complete system. I know that a lot of you have been looking forward today to a statement on what will be the future of the Arctic Rail. That being that, as Ketil mentioned, the study being completed in actually as fast as next week. I think what we need to do is make responsible but also very much concrete decisions for next steps as fast as possible. We need to do those together between the Finnish and Norwegian parties, and we need to do so with a clear vision of how we will enable the future and what it will bring with us. Today is not that day, but that day will be soon. Thank you.